Number 17. Ezra Mandas. On what began as a normal afternoon in March 2018, a Wisconsin dairy farmer named Don Sickle received an unexpected visitor at his property in Spring Brook. A distraught and barefoot stranger covered in blood, bruises, and mud was pounding on his door. Sickle had never met the young woman who claimed to be an assault victim and asked for a doctor. Later identified as 18-year-old Ezra Mandas, she was taken to a nearby hospital where she initially told police that she couldn't remember what had happened to her. While searching Sickle's property the next day, investigators found the dead body of 24-year-old Alex Woodworth hanging out of Ezra's 2003 Chevy Impala. He had been stabbed 16 times, and the car was stuck in the mud. Woodworth was one of Ezra's 3 lovers at the time. After being told that the police had found his body, Mandas suddenly went from not remembering what happened to claiming that she had stabbed Woodworth in self-defense when he tried to assault her. Following a 2-week investigation, authorities charged Mandas with first-degree intentional homicide. Between then and when the case went to trial in 2019, she repeatedly changed her story about how the attack played out. She also claimed that Woodworth had carved the word boy into her arm, but later admitted that the injury was self-inflicted. Mandas initially pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. She withdrew the plea after a competency exam concluded that she was fit to stand trial. Prosecutors claimed that Mandas murdered Woodworth because she felt he was interfering with her attempts to rekindle her relationship with another man named Jason Mangle. The state argued that the defendant's decision to flee the scene with Woodworth's phone proved her intent to kill by ensuring that he could not call for help if he was still clinging to life. Mandas was found guilty as charged and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 50 years. Her appeal for a retrial was denied by a Dunn County judge in 2023, and she is currently in the process of challenging her case in the state appeals court. Number 16. Lindy Williams. In September 2013, the burning headless torso of an Australian man was found along a roadside near the city of Gympie in Queensland. It took the police 10 months to identify the dismembered remains as 66-year-old George Gerbich, who lived about 50 miles from where his torso was discovered. His head, legs, and hands were never found, and his cause of death remains undetermined. Gerbich's girlfriend, Lindy Williams, told police that she had fought back against George in self-defense when he attacked her with a knife at the couple's Sunshine Coast home. She would later testify that she and George were fighting because she had caught him interacting with a male lover on a secret cell phone. Williams claimed that George slipped in a pool of her blood and hit his head, and that he was lying on the floor when she fled the house. In the first version of her story, she said that she returned to the residence days later to find George's body dismembered. She admitted to dumping George's body and setting it ablaze, but denied murdering her partner and maintained her self-defense claim throughout the case. When George went missing, Williams told his family and friends that he was overseas and told other lies to cover up what had really happened. Prosecutors charged her with murder and accused her of concocting an elaborate cover-up to conceal her guilt. In an unusual twist, even the defense admitted that Williams was lying when she denied cutting up George's body, but the accused killer's attorney stuck to the self-defense narrative, claiming that Williams was a victim of domestic violence who lied because she panicked after realizing George was dead. In 2018, the 60-year-old defendant was found guilty as charged and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole starting in 2034. Williams will be 77 years old when her first opportunity at freedom rolls around. Number 15. Nikki Yino. In 2016, a young woman named Nikki Yino accused 2 college football players of brutally attacking her at a campus party in Fairfield, Connecticut. While the law considers suspects innocent until proven guilty, the allegations immediately began destroying the men's lives in other ways. They were both kicked off their football team, lost their scholarships, and had their names plastered in the news. Yino reportedly told investigators that the suspects pulled her into a room and held her down while they took turns assaulting her. She claimed that she told the men she didn't want to do anything with them and that she begged them to let her leave. But witnesses told a different story, with some claiming that Yino looked perfectly willing to go behind closed doors with the men. Police brought her in for further questioning, and she recanted her original story. She also allegedly admitted that she made the whole thing up in a bid to gain sympathy from a man she was interested in dating. Yino pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree falsely reporting an incident and 1 count of interfering with police. She served 1 year in prison, followed by 2 years of probation, and the court denied her attempt to get off probation early. Number 14. Khadijah Senna. 21-year-old Khadijah Senna reported her vehicle stolen in Las Cruces, New Mexico in 2017. Afterwards, police began to suspect that she wasn't giving them the full story. An investigation found that just hours earlier, she called for help at a construction area along a freeway. Her car had been in an accident and was covered in dirt. It was bad enough that Senna got into an accident to begin with, but now she faced a whole new set of problems. Instead of receiving an insurance payout like she probably hoped for, the situation ended up costing her a considerable amount of money in the form of bail. After locating the crashed car's whereabouts, authorities charged her with filing a false report to a peace officer and perjury. Number 13. Sarah Boon. In one of the more bizarre murder cases to make news headlines in recent years, a Florida woman named Sarah Boon allegedly suffocated her boyfriend to death by zipping him up inside a suitcase and refusing to let him out. Police responded to the couple's Winter Park home in early 2020 after receiving a 911 call from Boon, who claimed she passed out during a game of hide-and-seek with 42-year-old Jorge Torres Jr. She said she woke up hours later to her phone ringing incessantly and realized Jorge might still be in the suitcase. When she looked inside the luggage, she found her boyfriend unresponsive and not breathing. Sarah made it sound like Torres died in a tragic accident, telling police that she left an opening in the zipper and that she didn't realize Jorge couldn't get out of the suitcase on his own. But a search of her phone turned up disturbing footage of her laughing while Jorge begged her to let him out of the suitcase. In one video, Torres repeatedly said he couldn't breathe. His pleas became increasingly desperate sounding as he ran out of oxygen. Instead of helping him, Boon laughed, called him stupid, told him to shut up, and acted unfazed by his suffering. She also made comments implying that Jorge was getting a taste of his own medicine for cheating and doing other terrible things to her. After discovering the videos, authorities arrested Boon on suspicion of second-degree murder. She has been held without bail at the Orange County Jail ever since as she awaits trial, which has been delayed multiple times and is currently scheduled for May of 2024. Boon is expected to use what's known as a battered woman defense based on the couple's established history of domestic violence. Prior to Jorge's death, he had been arrested multiple times following domestic violence incidents involving Boon. Sarah had been arrested once for domestic violence in 2018, and the charge was ultimately dropped. Of course, prosecutors will likely argue that Boon was not in imminent danger when she killed Torres. But they're probably not holding their breath on the trial actually starting on time, given the repeated delays stemming from Boon's seemingly endless problems with her lawyers. She's currently on her 7th defense attorney after several previous lawyers withdrew from the case due to an inability to see eye to eye with the defendant. The most recent lawyer to withdraw from Boon's case, Winston Hobson, told the judge that the defendant wants him to do things that he doesn't agree with doing as part of her defense strategy. Whether or not her new attorney will last remains to be seen. Number 12. Chau Van Vo. After retiring from his job as a college administrator, 57-year-old Stephen Shek Kyung Chan returned to California State University, Fullerton, to work part-time as a consultant. In August 2019, he was viciously stabbed to death in the school's parking lot as he arrived for work at 8:30 in the morning. A nearby construction worker overheard the commotion and rushed into the parking lot, where he saw the suspect repeatedly striking Chan. The worker attempted to confront the suspect, who shoved Chan's body into his car and fled the scene on foot. Police released surveillance photos and a composite drawing of the suspect to the public, leading to the identification of the suspect as 51-year-old Chau Van Vo, who was also an employee at the university. Vo's motive for the crime was withheld from the public until he pleaded guilty to murder in 2023. He admitted to enhancements for lying in wait and personal use of a deadly weapon, and also pleaded guilty to a grand theft by embezzlement charge. As it turned out, Vo had stolen over $200,000 from Cal State Fullerton by filing fake tutoring invoices. Chan was part of an investigation into the missing money and had reportedly discovered Vo's connection to the funds. Vo was sentenced to life in prison without parole. His attorney, Ed Wellborn, told reporters that Vo wanted to spare both his and Chan's family from the pain of going through a trial. Wellborn also said that his client felt remorseful for his actions and wanted to do the right thing and confess. Number 11. Paul John Goligly. On the surface, Paul John Goligly of Temecula, California, was a respectable cop who headed the anti-money laundering program at the Murrieta Police Department in Riverside County. In reality, he was as crooked as they come, using his job position in corrupt ways for his own personal benefit. Goligly's unethical behavior began in 2013 when he signed a Colombian art dealer on as confidential informant. He would later claim that the art dealer provided information that helped lead to arrests as well as drug and money seizures. But none of this was true, according to the U.S. Justice Department. For 7 years, Goligly took bribes from the dealer in exchange for providing services that fell far outside the scope of his job, including help at border crossings that the dealer may not have otherwise been able to get past. He also sponsored bogus work permits for the dealer and helped him with his permanent residency application. In exchange for his help, Goligly received tickets to prestigious art shows, expensive dinners, free stays at the art dealer's hotel in Mexico, and $30,000 in rent payments for a relative. His dishonest ways eventually caught up to him amid a larger federal investigation into the Murrieta Police Department's anti-money laundering unit. In October 2013, Goligly pleaded guilty to a federal charge of bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. The 74-year-old was sentenced to 4 years of probation, including 18 months of house arrest, and he was ordered to pay nearly $31,000 in restitution to the city of Murrieta. Number 10. Brett Detamore. During the summer of 2023, a 38-year-old Texas businessman named Brett Detamore vanished after leaving his home in West University Place early in the morning. His wife reported him missing, and police found his burned-out $100,000 truck at a public park. Fire investigators determined that the vehicle had been deliberately set ablaze, but no arrests were made because the truck was paid off and nobody wanted to press charges. A few days later, Detamore reached out to his family from a San Antonio bus stop, where he was found disheveled but safe. Throughout the expensive and time-consuming search, several law enforcement officials had expressed doubt that Detamore had met with foul play. At the time, he was facing multiple civil lawsuits for alleged financial fraud relating to his development business. More lawsuits came in the months after Detamore's brief disappearance. In October 2023, a former project manager named Sergio Moreno accused Detamore of fraud and slander. Moreno told Click2 Houston that vendors and subcontractors began complaining that they weren't getting paid. The company's checks were bouncing, according to Moreno, but a new check would be issued whenever it happened. Eventually, a check would clear. Moreno told the station that he was paid late on at least 2 occasions and was forced to use his personal credit card for business-related expenses when a company's credit card was denied. According to Moreno's lawsuit, Detamore fired him based on fabricated misconduct claims 10 days before he went missing. The accused crooked businessman was hit with 3 other lawsuits that same week, including one which claims that Detamore faked his disappearance. Additionally, the suit accuses Detamore of defrauding investors while using their money to fund a lavish lifestyle, which included a trip to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. Another plaintiff is suing Detamore for allegedly failing to build their dream home and leaving the construction site in disarray. A 4th lawsuit claims that Detamore failed to pay a $41,000 bill for supplies. At the time the lawsuits were filed, West University Place police were investigating Detamore for multiple fraud complaints, but the agency declined to go into detail about the allegations. A spokesperson told ABC 13 that they were not looking into the claims that Detamore faked his disappearance, and he has not been criminally charged. Ever since he re-emerged following his disappearance, Detamore has been requesting privacy from the public through his attorney. In a statement, the lawyer said that the lawsuit allegations would be answered in due time and accused the plaintiffs of pleading false rumors in court. The outcomes of the cases and any ongoing investigations remain to be seen. Number 9. Roda Osman. In September 2023, a 33-year-old Texas woman named Roda Osman told Houston police that an unidentified man had hit her in the face with a brick for refusing to give him her phone number. She said that she had ordered an Uber and believed the suspect was her driver, and that she also thought he was involved in human trafficking. Osman filed a report accusing her attacker of aggravated assault and shared the story on GoFundMe, where she raised more than $42,000 from sympathetic donors. The first hint that she wasn't being truthful came when the police called the number she had provided them with, only to find out that the number belonged to her friend. The friend allegedly told law enforcement that she and Osman had gone on a bar crawl together. Osman called some men to pick them up and climbed in the back seat of a car with one of them while the friend sat in the front. At one point, the friend heard Osman yell, "Why did you hit me?" The man in the back seat fled from the car, but Osman's friend didn't recall any actual arguments taking place or a brick being thrown at anyone's head. Osman allegedly gave police varying accounts of what actually happened. She eventually identified her accused attacker as a man named Olin Douglas and claimed that the assault took place at a bar called the Liquid Lounge. Surveillance footage from the business reportedly showed Osman, her friend, and Douglas talking in the club before getting into a Maserati with another man. In the video, Douglas could allegedly be seen hitting Osman in the face with a water bottle, which is certainly unacceptable, but a lot different from what Osman told the police and her crowdfunding benefactors. Authorities charged the accused liar with theft. Osman, now infamously known as the Brick Lady, pleaded not guilty and is free on $10,000 bond while awaiting the outcome of her case. At the time of her arrest, she was already out on bail for felony assault and domestic violence charges. She also has a history of charges in Minnesota and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Number 8. Hillary Black. Police in Gwinnett County, Georgia, received an alarming call in September 2018. A local woman claimed she had been robbed at knife point while using an ATM at a public store in Lawrenceville. 33-year-old Hillary Black told responding officers that a Hispanic man had threatened her with a box cutter and forced her into her car at around 11 in the morning. She said the man then drove to an abandoned shopping center where he tried to assault her. Black claimed that she managed to fight her attacker off, but that he managed to steal $1,400 cash from her. Responding officers were immediately suspicious about the truthfulness of Black's story. She did not appear at all disheveled, according to law enforcement, and scratches on her arm appeared to be superficial. While investigating the report, the police were unable to locate the abandoned shopping center detailed in Black's complaint. They determined that it didn't exist and discovered more inconsistencies while reviewing surveillance footage from the public store, which showed Black using the ATM and getting into her car alone and unharmed. A search of the car failed to turn up any sign of foul play, including blood, fingerprints, or anything else an abductor might have left behind. When questioned about the veracity of her claims, Black initially stuck to her original story about what had happened. She admitted to making the story up after being confronted with the security video from Publix. Black was allowed to leave the police station while investigators obtained a warrant for her arrest on a felony false statement charge. When a detective called her and told her that the warrant had been issued, she promised to turn herself in, but never showed up. A Gwinnett County Sheriff spokesperson told the Dayton Daily News that Black had no apparent reason to fabricate her story, leaving her motive a mystery. It's also unclear whether police ever managed to track her down or if she ended up turning herself in. Number 7. Matthew Beasley. Over a 5-year period starting in 2017, a Las Vegas lawyer named Matthew Beasley allegedly defrauded somewhere between 600 and 1,000 victims out of a collective $460 million. According to federal prosecutors, Beasley convinced investors that he knew personal injury plaintiffs who were willing to borrow ahead of their pending settlements at high interest rates. To make the scheme seem real, he presented the victims with contracts that seemed legitimate. He's also accused of encouraging his investors to find additional investors for him. The victims wired money to an account that was designated for client funds, which Beasley allegedly used to buy luxury homes, cars, and recreational vehicles. Prosecutors also claim that he used the ill-gotten funds to pay off gambling debts. The FBI arrested Beasley in 2022 following a tense 4-hour standoff that ended with him being shot by a SWAT team member as they barged into his home. In March 2023, the 50-year-old crooked attorney was indicted in federal court on 5 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of money laundering. In an undated letter to the FBI that became public following his indictment, Beasley stated right off the bat that he was responsible for this entire mess. He claimed that he acted entirely alone and that he deliberately kept the scheme a secret from his wife, his children, and others, including his co-defendants in a civil lawsuit that the Securities and Exchange Commission filed in 2022. Beasley went on to say, "I didn't mean this to happen. I was just trying to get by and take care of my family," which is a pretty tough explanation to buy in a case that involves nearly $500 million disappearing. He admitted he was a liar and described himself as a horrible human being, claiming that he had realized 2 or 3 years earlier that he was too far in over his head to ever recover. The accused fraudster wrote that after he realized that his arrest was inevitable, he gave his family what he always wanted them to have, while waiting for his actions to catch up with him. In April 2023, a judge ordered for Beasley to be held in custody, pending the outcome of his case, which appears to be ongoing. Number 6. Susan Meechan. In September 2020, romance author Susan Meechan's dedicated fans were devastated to see a post on her social media account by someone claiming to be her daughter, revealing that she had tragically passed away. As her followers mourned, they also began to speculate on what had gone wrong in Meechan's life. Allegations of online bullying against the author flew back and forth, dividing a once united community that continued to grieve for more than 2 years. Some of Meechan's fans questioned why her social media appeared to remain active if she was no longer alive, but the person using the account continuously claimed to be her daughter. People also noticed that the individual claiming to be Susan's daughter made the same exact spelling errors as the author herself, leading some to believe that Meechan was still alive and still operating the account. Meechan admitted to the ruse in a social media post in early 2023, writing, "There's going to be lots of questions. Let the fun begin." People were understandably angry and felt betrayed by the author's lies, including those who had already realized that she was probably faking her death before she admitted to doing so. In addition to owning up to her staged death, Meechan revealed that she had been running her social media group and publishing books under an alias the entire time. Her reasons for making the world think she no longer existed remain unclear, but it's probably safe to assume that she lost a lot of fans with her dishonesty. Number 5. Nancy Donis. In April 2016, a 37-year-old New Jersey man named Sean Donis stayed at home to watch his 5-year-old son, while his wife, 38-year-old Nancy Donis, went out to dinner. When he couldn't find his iPad, he located it using the Find My Device feature and noticed that it was moving toward an unfamiliar destination. Realizing it must be in Nancy's car and that she was not at a restaurant, Sean got in his vehicle and drove to the location in Rockland County, which happened to be a home. He knocked and rang the doorbell, but nobody answered. The front door was unlocked, so he went inside. Sean made his way up to the second floor, where he allegedly found Nancy in the middle of getting it on with her boss, 58-year-old Albert Lopez. He recorded a brief video clip of the two red-handed in the act and left the scene without causing any physical harm. Needless to say, the discovery marked the end of the Donis' marriage, and Sean tried to focus on moving on with his life. He was shocked to receive a letter in mid-2017, more than a year after the incident, stating that a grand jury had indicted him on charges of felony burglary and unlawful surveillance. In court, Albert Lopez testified that Nancy had told him she was separated from her husband when they started seeing each other. At the time, Nancy was working as a billing manager at Lopez's orthopedics practice. Lopez further claimed that he feared for his life when Sean entered his home and confronted him and Nancy. He said he asked Sean if he wanted to die in a desperate attempt to get the enraged husband out of his home, to which Sean replied, "Kill me, I don't care." Afterward, Lopez was supposedly so traumatized that he couldn't sleep and developed a paranoia about making sure all his doors were locked. Sean's lawyer denied that his client was the big bad bully that Lopez made him out to be. In fact, the attorney argued that his client deserved a medal for the amount of restraint that he showed during the confrontation. It's easy to understand why most people would sympathize with Sean Donis, but according to the prosecution, Albert Lopez was the real victim in this situation, even if he had been caught sleeping with a married man's wife. In early 2018, Sean was cleared of all charges by a judge during a bench trial, bringing a long-awaited end to a saga that had made him feel like he was being punished twice, once by catching his wife cheating, and a second time for being criminally charged over the painful experience. He wept tears of joy after learning the outcome and victoriously waved his fist as he exited the courthouse with a triumphant smile on his face. Following the ruling, the New York Post paid a visit to the Patterson home of Nancy Donis. She said that she was happy about the outcome of the case and that she didn't want her ex-husband to go to jail over something stupid. Nancy continued to insist that she and Sean were separated when he caught her in bed with Lopez, but said that all she cared about was Sean being a good father to their kids, which he was. She refused to testify for the prosecution, which allegedly made Lopez furious. Hopefully, all parties have put the situation behind them and moved on. Number 4. Rogelio Andaverde. A Texas man named Rogelio Andaverde wanted to go out with some friends one night in 2013, but he didn't think his wife would be okay with it. So he had 2 of his friends barge into his house with masks on and stage his kidnapping, somehow thinking that it would get him off the hook from telling his wife where he had gone, when in reality he would have a lot of explaining to do. Andaverde's wife, Maria Hernandez, was understandably terrified for her husband's safety. Believing that the kidnapping was real, she dialed 911. Police searched the area on the ground and with helicopters, but failed to find the missing man. 2 days later, Andaverde showed up back at his house. He told Maria that his captors had a change of heart and freed him. Naturally, the cops found his story to be questionable and did their own digging into the situation. They soon discovered that Andaverde had faked his abduction in order to go to a party, or as he put it, spend time with his friends and party. Former Hidalgo County Sheriff Guadalupe Trevino told the Dallas Morning News that law enforcement had taken Maria's report extremely seriously. Not only was Andaverde's unsuspecting wife completely distraught about her husband's kidnapping, the nature of the story was immediately alarming. As Trevino put it, people don't just barge into your house and kidnap you for the hell of it. Andaverde pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of making a false report to police and was released after spending 19 days in jail. But it's fair to suspect that the punishment didn't end upon his release from county lockup, given the fact that his wife spent days worrying and probably wondering if he was even alive while he parted it up without a care in the world. Number 3. Charlie Javis. After graduating from the University of Pennsylvania's prestigious Wharton School in 2013, Charlie Javis founded a company called Frank, which helped college students obtain loans and financial assistance. The company hit its first snag in 2017 when federal authorities accused Javis of misrepresenting the business to appear as if it was affiliated with the US government. She settled in 2018 and was also sued for wage theft in Israel the same year, but also squared away that case. In 2019, Javis was featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30 list of successful young finance professionals. 2 years later, she sold Frank to JP Morgan Chase for $175 million and was brought on as a managing director and the bank's head of student solutions. Javis's seemingly bright future came crashing down in late 2022 when she was fired from JP Morgan Chase. Shortly after terminating her employment, JP Morgan sued the young woman for allegedly using false data to boost her company's image prior to selling it. More specifically, Javis is accused of making it look like the company had more than 4 million customers, when in reality, it had served around 300,000 people. According to court documents, she paid a data scientist to create a fake database to convince JP Morgan that the wildly exaggerated numbers were real. In a wrongful termination counter lawsuit filed against JP Morgan that same month, Javis accused the bank of conducting a series of groundless investigations against her in a bid to cut her out of the company. She soon landed in hot water in federal criminal court, where she faces charges of wire fraud, securities fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy. Prosecutors have echoed the allegations that were previously put forth by JP Morgan, claiming that Javis falsely and dramatically exaggerated the size of her company's customer base. She pleaded not guilty to the charges and is free on $2 million bail as she waits for the case to go to trial in October 2024. Number 2. Jonathan Michael Davis. In February 2018, relatives of an Oklahoma man named Jonathan Michael Davis called the police in Owasso to report him missing after they began receiving text messages from his phone demanding a $375 ransom. They believed that Jonathan had been kidnapped and that his captor was using his phone to communicate with them. Along with the ransom demand, the purported abductors sent friends and relatives a photo of what they claimed was Davis's broken finger. The image was accompanied by a message stating that they would continue to break Davis's fingers until they received the money via PayPal. The messages also contained threats to hurt Davis if anyone went to the police. After taking the family's report, the local police immediately summoned help from federal law enforcement, including the FBI and the U.S. Marshals. Investigators traced Jonathan's phone to the River Spirit Casino in Tulsa, where they found his vehicle in the parking lot. They found the missing man inside gambling, where he appeared to be alive and well. Davis was also in possession of the phone that he was using to message his loved ones with phony kidnapping claims, and his finger was not broken. He found the image that he sent to his family and friends in a Google search for broken finger and was arrested for his alleged crimes. Speaking with People magazine, Owasso Deputy Chief Jason Woodruff expressed shock at Davis's apparent willingness to traumatize his relatives for a few $100s by making them think he was in life-threatening danger. Thankfully, as Woodruff put it, he wasn't very good at this, and it didn't take long for police to locate him. And now for number 1. But if you want to hear more bizarre and crazy stories, stay tuned after the video for some more content. Number 1. Philandering husband plus wife's grandma. When a 24-year-old woman from Birmingham, England became suspicious of her husband's sudden personality change and his frequent absences from their home, she hired private investigators to look into his whereabouts and activities. The couple had been married for just a year when the husband suddenly became distant. He spent more and more time away from home, claiming that he was working late or traveling for work. The investigators tracked his whereabouts to a hotel 60 miles from the couple's home, where they discovered that the man was having a secret tryst with his wife's 72-year-old grandmother. As private investigators, there wasn't much they hadn't seen before. It took a lot to shock them, but this definitely qualified. And while the wife already suspected her husband of cheating and was bracing herself for bad news, she never would have expected him to be having an affair with her grandmother, who was 46 years the man's senior. When the story broke in 2018, the wife hadn't filed for divorce yet, but she certainly planned to do so, telling Metro UK, "It's a difficult time at the moment, but it can be great to get rid of somebody so toxic in your life."
Number 8. Todd Mullis. Police in Earlville, Iowa, received an unusual call in 2018 when a farmer named Todd Mullis claimed that his wife, Amy, was unresponsive after what appeared to be a freak accident in their shed. He told the 911 operator that she had no pulse and that she looked gone. Mullis told the police that their son found Amy with a corn rake through her chest and that she must have fallen on the tool. The son removed the rake from his mother's body and they rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late to save Amy, who was pronounced dead at the hospital after losing so much blood. The emergency room doctor who tried to save her life noticed that her injuries didn't add up to Todd's story. She had 6 puncture wounds, yet the corn rake she supposedly fell on only had 4 tines. Detectives soon learned that Todd and Amy had a troubling marriage. They tied the knot in 2004 and had 3 children together, but at some point, Amy began to stray. At the time of her death, she was cheating on Todd with someone who worked on their farm. Todd initially denied knowing about the affair, but people who knew the couple told investigators that he had caught Amy with her secret lover. They stopped sharing a bed, and Amy told her friends that if anything happened to her, Todd was responsible. A search of their home computer revealed that shortly before her death, he had researched how the Aztecs punished cheating spouses. Todd was found guilty of first-degree murder and will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Number 7. Jacqueline Alexandra Rivera. When someone suspects their partner of cheating, it can cause them to act extremely irrational and do things they wouldn't normally do. One Northern California woman took things to such an extreme that she ended up with a criminal record. Back in 2012, 18-year-old Jacqueline Alexandra Rivera began to suspect that her boyfriend at the time was cheating on her. She went to the 21-year-old's home in San Mateo to discuss his concerns, but he refused to talk about it, and the relationship ended. Rivera returned to the man's house around 3 o'clock in the morning, snuck into his bedroom, and lit his bed on fire. She snuck away before his father heard him screaming and put the flames out with a garden hose. He suffered from burns to his arms and legs, but nobody called the police. Weeks later, Rivera's friend told the ex-boyfriend that Rivera had confessed to committing the crime. The person also called the police, and they quickly arrested her. Rivera was found mentally unfit to stand trial, but this didn't get her off the hook for her crimes. She spent the next 2 years in a psychiatric facility until her mental health was restored. The trial proceeded, and she pled no contest in exchange for a maximum 5-year prison sentence. Number 6. Tutia Hwin. 29-year-old Tutia Hwin was shocked to find her 34-year-old husband, Stephen Hafer, dead in the bedroom of their Houston, Texas home in early 2017. She called the police claiming that Stephen had killed himself, but detectives believed that the evidence told a much different story and that perhaps Hwin had a reason for wanting her husband dead. The Houston Police Department said that trajectory of the bullet was uncharacteristic of a suicide, and the shotgun that Stephen supposedly shot himself with had been wiped clean. Hyun's story repeatedly kept changing, and she eventually admitted that she had been cheating on her husband with an ex-boyfriend. Stephen's parents later told ABC 13 that they had noticed some tension between the couple during their last holiday visit, and that the two were having money problems. Shortly before his death, their son said that he was planning to leave Hwin and move out of state with their 2-year-old daughter. Police charged Hwin with killing Stephen, but she maintained her innocence throughout the entire case. A medical examiner ultimately determined that Stephen's death was, in fact, a suicide after all, and Hwin was cleared of all charges. She accused the authorities of attacking her right from the beginning, causing her to lose her job as a nurse and robbing her of the ability to properly mourn her husband. It's probably fair to say that her affair and the couple's other problems are what made her such a strong suspect, but just because someone cheats on their partner, it doesn't make them a killer. Number 5. A burned bride-to-be. Find out you're being cheated on is one of the worst feelings a person can go through. But it's even worse when the cheater is having an affair with someone you know and trust. One bride-to-be wanted to make sure that she got the last laugh after finding out that her fiancé was cheating on her with her best friend. She ordered a custom necklace from New York-based jewelry designer Liv Portillo and had it engraved with the words, "Have my leftovers." The woman planned to give the jewelry to her friend for her birthday as a way of letting her backstabbing buddy know that she had found out about the affair. She planned to do it in front of other people, and she paid for the necklace with her fiancé's credit card. Portillo, who owns the jewelry company DBL Jewelry, posted the story on TikTok. Many users commented that it was a shame that such a beautiful necklace had such a sad backstory to it. Others wrote that they wish they knew what happened when the customer gave the gift to what, I'm guessing, is now her former best friend. What would you do if you found out your fiancé was cheating on you with your best friend? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 4. Tavner Smith. 41-year-old Tavner Smith is well known as the pastor of Venue Church, a megachurch in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that made news headlines in the past for allegedly being a brainwashing cult that's getting rich off people's donations. Smith started the church in 2012 and spent copious amounts of time recruiting members. His efforts paid off. In just a few years, Venue Church became one of the fastest growing churches in the U.S. The ambitious pastor strongly urged worshipers to donate, claiming that it would bless their personal finances. Naturally, many people saw this as a classically cultish strategy for brainwashing followers and taking their money. The church, nevertheless, continued to grow, and by the end of last year, it had a presence in 2 states, with as many as 2,000 people attending each service. But its glory days become numbered when people began to suspect that Smith was cheating on his wife. In December, some volunteers paid the married father of 3 a surprise visit at his home. Smith was in his boxers and had a female church employee over. She was wrapped in a towel. He claimed that he had spilled chili on their clothes and had to wash them, but the visitors didn't buy the story. They had noticed long before then that Smith and the woman, who was also married, seemed to be joined at the hip. The pair spent a lot of time alone in his office and exchanged comments on social media that seemed overly friendly. Rumors began to fly about them having an affair, and a video of the couple kissing in a restaurant began circulating online. Smith never publicly admitted to the affair. He announced last year that he and his wife were divorcing and took a short break from preaching to get his life in order. People began to leave the church and stop donating as the preacher's personal life unraveled. Meanwhile, former members and employees took to social media with stories about how the church had allegedly abused them and taken advantage of their pocketbooks for years. It wasn't long before Smith returned to preaching. His sermons became increasingly pushy and aggressive as he criticized members for not donating enough and told them not to associate with those who had left. The future of Inu Church remains uncertain, but it seems as though Smith's infidelity and shady fundraising techniques may have caught up to him for good. Number 3. Teen tragedy. A new year is supposed to make new beginnings, but this sadly wasn't the case for 15-year-old Diamond Alvarez, who was recently found fighting for her life on a sidewalk outside her Houston, Texas home. Someone had fired 22 bullets into her from behind and left her for dead. It was too late to save the teen. Diamond had left to walk the family dog and never came home. When the dog returned alone, her family knew that something was wrong and went out to look for her. She died in her mother's arms. Investigators soon learned that Diamond had met up with a young man she had recently broken up with after finding out that he was cheating on her. The pair had dated for 6 months when she discovered his double life. Before Diamond met up with him, on the day of her death, he sent her a text message telling her to keep their relationship a secret. When police went to arrest 17-year-old Frank DeLeon Jr. at his home, they found a suitcase on his bed filled with clothing and toiletries. Based on the amount of items, prosecutors said that it was not simply an overnight bag, implying that DeLeon had plans to flee town and live on the run. They told the judge that they were concerned about him showing up for court, and the high school senior's bond was set at $250,000. He managed to come up with enough money and was released on house arrest. Diamond's mother told local station KHOU that she's devastated about DeLeon's release and that his bond was so low. She also said that she's scared because he lives near her and the family had already received threats from people. The community is demanding justice for Diamond, whose life was senselessly cut short when it was just starting. Number 2. Reality star rendezvous. The reality show 90 Day Fiancé is known for its controversial couples. During season 7, viewers met Michael Jessen, a 40-something wine entrepreneur from Connecticut who brought his 23-year-old bride-to-be to the U.S. on a fiancé visa. Many people accused the young Brazilian model, named Juliana Custodio, of using her wealthy older husband for money and a green card. But initially skeptical fans began to change their minds about Juliana as they saw her interacting with Michael's kids and getting along with his ex-wife, Sarah. Juliana's willingness to act in the children's best interests and her respect for the mother seemed genuine and mature. Around the time the COVID-19 pandemic began, Sarah was diagnosed with cancer. She and her husband, Sean, fell on hard times, and Michael and Juliana welcomed the couple into their home. For a while, the household seemed like a modern-day Brady Bunch. They put on their best faces for social media, leaving fans both shocked and impressed. After all, it's one thing to get along with your partner's ex, but it's another to let them move in and live as one big happy family. But things weren't as picture perfect as they seemed. Several months ago, Michael and Juliana announced that they were splitting. Juliana accused Michael's family of treating her like a maid and living off her money. She abruptly relocated to Germany and revealed right after the move that she's pregnant by her new boyfriend, Ben. Michael was reportedly devastated by the news, which came with rumors that Sarah's husband might be the baby's father. An anonymous tipster told the media that they saw Juliana and Sean making out at the family's home a few months ago, and that Sarah suspected an affair and questioned the baby's paternity. Juliana denied the rumors and insisted that Ben is the baby's dad, but not everyone is convinced. The drama is still unfolding, but many people have already made up their minds and are harassing Juliana on social media. It doesn't help that shortly before the split became public, Juliana made a cryptic post telling her followers that soon everyone was going to hate her. And number 1, sickle wielding scorned husband. It doesn't take much for an argument about an affair to get out of hand. This recently happened in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, where a 31-year-old man lost his temper and hacked his wife to death with a sickle. Identified by police as K. Kumar, the accused murderer had confronted his 25-year-old spouse about her ongoing romance with another man. She often visited her lover, and they kept in touch over the phone. Kumar apparently got sick of it, and a fight broke out in the early hours of the morning. He flew into a fit of uncontrolled rage and attacked her with a weapon. She died immediately from her injuries, according to the police. Sadly, cases like this are not uncommon in India, where violence against women is high. In June of last year, a 55-year-old man stabbed his wife to death in the streets of Gujarat because he thought she was cheating on him. A few months before that, a 40-year-old Delhi resident killed his wife in public. She had refused to quit her job and become a homemaker, leading him to think that she was having an affair with a coworker. The woman left her controlling husband and moved in with her parents, but he tracked her down and stabbed her.
Thanks for watching. Would you rather be caught lying to avoid going to someone's wedding or to avoid going to work? Let us know in the comments below and remember to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.